Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome to Cherry and Timber Talk. Okay, I can still hear the music playing in the background for some reason, but that's fine. And happy Independence Day to all fellow Indians celebrating all over the world. It's great to be doing a show on this day. And as you can see, we have Nishad and we have Mahesh. Unfortunately, Yogesh could not make it, but we can hear from him today in a video. So as you would have guessed from our promos, we are doing the same semi-finals theme this week as well. But we're not going to focus upon the entire game today like we did the last time. We're going to talk about important innings, important spells, important cameos. That's something which always gets missed out while discussing important games, right? So I'll give Nishad the honors to kind of start off today.
Oh, first up, yeah, that's pretty good. And since it's semi-final two, and again today cameos may play a big role if they get a few questions right. It's only fitting that we are talking about such knocks. The reason I talk about cameos is because they are so underrated at times. They may not be the big 50s or the big hundreds, but they are worth their weight in gold. And I think that is what sets them apart. And two cameos that really stand out for me, although one was not in a semi-final, and I think they are very close to my heart. I would say very close to. I think a lot of Indian fans as well, and I think that is Suresh Raina's contribution in the 2011 World Cup. Effectively, I think it was the backbone of India's victory because when it mattered the most, Raina stood up and made himself count, made his performance count. In the quarterfinal, it was obviously giving Yuvraj Singh the support and playing the shot. But in the semi-final against Pakistan, in that high-pressure environment, MS Dhoni back in the hut, the tail batting with you, it was Suresh Raina who held it together and ensured that India went past 250 and got to 260. A lot of the people at that time felt India should have raced on to 300, but it wasn't that kind of pitch. So, audience, please tell us what are some of your favorite knocks in semi-finals of big world events. Last time we also spoke about the Yuvraj Singh and some of the others, but there are also some of the other knocks that we should mention. The other one I should mention is Mike Valletta, who got a couple of 40s. One in the World Cup semi-final of 1987 against Pakistan at Lahore, and then repeated it against England in the final. So these knocks are so critical. But for me, one of my favorite knocks in a semi-final, in a World Cup semi-final, is by Inzamam Ulhaq. The 60 that he got, it was way ahead of its time.
Yes.
He got it at a T20 pace, playing across the line. It showed the kind of natural hand-eye coordination he had and the natural talent he had and the ease with which he could play fast bowlers. So it unleashed a true superstar on the world stage, a true great batsman on the world stage. At the same time, it gave Pakistan the confidence. And I must tell the viewers another thing is that you must also check Inzamam ul Haq's channel on YouTube, where he talks about the semi-final performance in a very emotional way. Now, Inzi is someone who we don't see in a very emotional way, but he narrates the kind of difficulties he went through. He was actually ill ahead of that game. And Imran Khan, the great Imran Khan, as a captain to quote Wasim Akram, as he always says, the great Imran Khan.
Great Imran Khan.
He told Inzamam, there is no way you're not playing.
Not playing. Yep.
And look, Inzamam was actually physically, you would not think he was in a position to play, but look at what he did in the semi-final, which is why Pakistan went into the final. And generally, I remember also Mark Nicholas in one of the computer games that we used to have as children. And he said, when we used to play a World Cup in that, he would say semi-finals are generally the tougher games to win than the final. Because final, you may still know you have come close, yet you're a little bit far away. But the semi-final can generally hurt. So I think that is the one. Venu, there's an interesting question for you. Have you bought a cottage recently?
Yes. So as you can see from my location, guys, I'm somewhere close to the North Pole. Yeah, it's an interesting place I am in today. So I'm enjoying my freedom per se on Independence Day.
Nisha, you were mentioning about Inzamam ul Haq's this thing that he was not well, but he was asked to play by Imran. Apparently, he didn't have the guts to go up to Imran and say that he's not well. So he told his room partner Mustaq Ahmad to go and convey the message to Imran. And Imran said, "There's no way. I don't even want to talk to him. He has to take his medicine and come and play. He doesn't have a choice."
I think that will be. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Mustaq and Inzamam are very close friends from like a very young age. So it's also
I think 1992 was a complete case study in inspirational leadership, if I could call so, for Imran Khan and
True.
Pakistan. The way he made a comeback, the way he led the team and, led from the front. I mean, there's so many interesting anecdotes and stories, right, from that leadership story, that campaign. I mean, amazing, right? And it has to be hands down to Imran Khan and his style of captaincy and the way he carried players along that won the World Cup for
So
Pakistan.
on YouTube, there is a show where I think five or six of them, Imran, Akram, Ramiz, Mushtaq, they all sit and chat about that campaign,
Yep. Yep.
and they tell him that we are still scared of you. They tell Imran, we are still scared of you.
Yes. Interesting. Kshitij says that
Yeah.
Raina's 21 of 10 in the World Cup semi-final was crucial as well. And I think, if I'm not wrong, Kohli played a blinder that day as well,
Yeah.
right? In South Africa. That's something which we were about to discuss as well. I think that innings was phenomenal in the context of the attack that South Africa had. And, he was treating Dale Steyn like a, real easygoing bowler on that day, on that particular day, right? So, yeah, amazing. Mahesh, what's your story? What all
I think Nishad has
specific?
something more to add. So
Oh, yeah, you had
I
something
think
to add,
we
Nishant?
cut him down somewhere.
No, I was just going to say that it's such a important lesson in leadership, that 1992 World Cup campaign. One of my biggest lessons is whenever I face a big moment, I'm going to wear a T-shirt with a tiger on it and go.
Oh, yes.
I like it. I like the spirit.
Yeah. I think our Bangladeshi friends might take offense because you're taking their copyright away from them. The Royal Bengal Tigers.
So I think now they prefer some other animals.
Yep. Okay, over to you, Mahesh. What are your favorite semi-final knock
So
or
I will
spell
talk
memories?
about the 1987 semi-finals between India and England.
Hmm.
I think the next day after Pakistan crashed out of the semi-finals of
Yep.
1987 World Cup, the next day India was going to play England.
Yep.
And before the semi-finals, everybody expected an India-Pakistan encounter at the Eden Gardens capacity
Hmm.
crowd. So once Pakistan were defeated by Australia, then it was left to whether India would make it. And on a
Yep.
beautiful November morning, Kapil Dev won the toss and decided to put England to bat. Now, one of the very critical things in that match is, though Graham Gooch scored 115 runs and got England to a very good score of 254,
Yep.
the important thing is the preparation that Graham Gooch had leading up to the match.
Yep.
India's two spinners, Maninder Singh and Ravi Shastri, were in terrific form. They not only stopped the runs in the middle overs, but they also picked up wickets. So England knew if they could take care of the spinners, then this match would be, at least they would be able to put up a good score. And as soon as Maninder and Ravi Shastri came to bowl, Graham Gooch used the sweep to a great effect. In fact, he had prepared so well for the last 2 days by getting all the net bowlers, the left-arm net bowlers, to come and bowl to him, and he was continuously sweeping. Some of the sweeps was like an overpitched delivery, which if he had missed, he was going to be plumb in front of the wicket. He swept, and he swept so well that the Indian spinners, both Maninder and Ravi Shastri, had no idea, because they had never encountered anything like this in all the league matches. So they never had a plan B. And suddenly come the semi-finals, when they couldn't get the wickets and they were not able to stop the flow of runs, they didn't have plan B to fall back on. And Graham Gooch went on to score 115 and took England to 250 plus, which in those days, I'm talking 1987, that's like 30, 35, 33 years back, was a very, very good score. I mean, 250 would have been around 350 of today's time. And in a semi-finals, where the ball was, it was not a beautiful batting wicket. It was a good weather condition wise. It was very good, but on a pitch, it stopped. Some of them turned. I think 254 was a very good score. And then, as we all know, that India were not able to get the runs, and we finally lost the match by 18 runs.
I think
So having
Graham Gooch
said
was
that,
probably one of the best exponents of the sweep shot, if I'm not wrong, in the English batting lineup.
in the English, okay, while the
Unfortunately, they
English
took
always believe that if you don't read the spin, just sweep.
when in doubt sweep, right? So they just took
Correct.
it one
And
step ahead. Yeah.
yeah, and I think he played very well. I thought he played extremely well. I mean,
Yeah.
semi-finals, big match. I think he got good support from Mike Gatting, and that's
Yeah.
how they reached that.
Yeah.
So, to me, that was one of the very good innings, which is not spoken too much. It was spoken in the initial stages, but then there
Yep.
were a lot of other great knocks that came along, and people tend to forget Graham Gooch's innings. Graham
Yeah.
Gooch has been a great opener for England for many
Yeah.
years. Okay,
Yeah.
so I thought that it would only make sense to talk about this innings, which I thought was a very good innings.
And I think we can fairly say that do not copy what you can't paste, right? So Mike Gatting
Correct.
tried the other one in the finals and he got out and
So
he
there was a very
lost the great
famous line,
position.
Venu. I don't know whether you all remember that line. It said, Gooch swept England to victory and put them into the finals,
Yeah.
and Mike Gatting reverse swept them to doom.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Be original, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think from my memory, obviously one which Yogesh is going to speak about in the video shortly is the 1999 semifinals, which you also spoke about last time. I think one particular spell that I distinctly remember is the game that Nishad spoke about, the 2011 semifinal. We always speak about the great knocks of Tendulkar and Raina, but what about that spell from Wahab Riaz in the middle overs
Oh
with the
yeah.
reversing ball and Yuvraj
Two
Singh in
balls, two
prime
wickets.
form? Yuvraj Singh in prime form, right? And coming out and, with that high back lift and that in swinging Yorker just got his leg stump out, right? I mean, that was
Yeah,
amazing.
I still remember Mike Atherton saying it's fast and it's swinging in, and it was
Exactly.
nasty.
It was
And
nasty,
because
right?
Yuvraj Singh, man in form, walking into his hometown,
Yep.
and one of my friends, okay, for a change, I wasn't at the ground. My friend was at the
Oh, lovely, lovely.
Today is a pivotal moment in the history of Cherry and Timber Talk.
Okay,
Nishad
but
was
I was there for the final. I was there for the final. So my
okay.
friend was at the ground, and he told me when they saw Yuvraj Singh walking in. Sometimes you
Hmm.
know by the walk the kind of mindset the player is in, and Yuvraj Singh was walking in with that confidence.
Yes.
Man in form, going out. I mean, he played one of the innings of his life against Australia in the quarterfinal, and to
Yep.
get that ball first up, even Virat Kohli, the kind of ball that he got, just
Yes.
outside off, come swinging a little bit away from him, and
Yep.
he was in two minds whether to play it, leave it, drive it,
Correct.
and he just got it straight to point.
he played
Exactly.
So
a he played a combination of all the things that you said. He cut, threw it,
exactly.
played a lot of shots in one shot.
Yes. Absolutely.
That
Yeah,
was,
so
yeah.
that was
Wahab
one
Riaz bowled a
spell
brilliant
that I
spell.
distinctly remember, and I think that almost bowled Pakistan to victory, if I so, because that was the spell that changed the course of the game in the middle overs, and those were the days when the power plays were introduced in the middle overs to make the ODIs more interesting. So it was notoriously said that the power plays used to get more wickets than more runs, in those middle overs. If you remember the batting power
Yes.
play, which used to be
Correct.
taken between over number 35 to 40, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So that was this phase that yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Nishad. You were saying something.
And bowling, since I just have a couple of minutes just to
Yep.
add
Yep.
some
Yep.
of the spells that I remember in semi-finals. One I remember fondly is Shane, obviously in that great semi-final, which I think Yogesh will mention later. And also in the semi-final of the '96 World Cup, turning that game out of nowhere against Australia.
Yes.
That too was an important one. And
Yep.
one also that really sticks in memory for me was
Yep.
during the 2007 World Cup, the forgettable World Cup, as a lot of people would say, in uh, in that semi-final where Glenn McGrath, Sean Tate, Nathan Bracken
Oh yes. Yes.
decimated the South African top order.
Oh
South
yeah.
Africa obviously contributed themselves with some bad shots, but these guys held on to their plans.
Correct.
And later in the year, Srishant giving Australia a taste of their medicine with 2 for 12 in 4 overs. That
Oh
for me
yes.
fell that
Yeah.
I really, really love.
Oh yes. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing
Very
bowler.
true.
Really good skill. Awesome, Nishad. I won't hold you for long if you have to
Yes,
go.
definitely.
Yep. And prepare well for the googlies, the yorkers, and the bouncers, and everything that you have in store today.
Or the Yorker that Wahab bowled to Yuvraj Singh.
Oh
Absolutely. Bring
God,
it on.
that's a big
And
statement coming in.
yes. So Mayur,
All right,
Anuj, and Sojit, watch
guys.
out.
We will be seeing you in about half an hour's time on Cricket. Please
Yeah.
enjoy the discussion between Venu, Mahesh, and Yogesh will join in through video. Keep watching.
Awesome. Thanks, Nishad. Cool. Yeah. So coming back, Mahesh, there was
So
one more thing I wanted
let's
to.
run Yogesh's video.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, correct. I think we'll start
That'll
with
be good.
that,
Right?
and then maybe we can come back to our discussion.
The semi-final between Australia and South Africa was billing to be a great contest. 1999 semi-final played at the Birmingham. Bowling first, South Africa had done really well to restrict Australia to 213 total, of which Pollock had got 5 wickets, and 5 great wickets at that, getting both the War brothers and also 3 more wickets, and it was looking like South Africa would get a leg up and actually, proceed to the finals in this one. But until the magician had its say, South Africa had got off to a good start, reaching 48 without losing a wicket, and Kirsten and Herschel Gibbs were playing well. And then the ball with Warney, and the first wicket that he got of Herschel Gibbs, the ball pitching outside leg, drifting away, and then turning, kicking, and taking the off stump, leaving Herschel Gibbs absolutely flabbergasted. And then he followed it up with the wicket of Kirsten and truly started setting South Africa back. He quickly got Cronje as well, and finally he also finished with the wicket of one more batsman. So 4 wickets in that, I think, absolutely heroic performance. And then he put Australia back on track to grab control over that game. And we all know how that game ended. Obviously, we remember it for Klusner and the mix-up with Alan Donald. Quite unfortunate, but before that, we'd seen 2 really, really terrific bowling performances. First from Pollock, but the winning hand came through the man, Shane Warne.
It's interesting you
Super.
mentioned about Sean Pollock because not many people talk about that 5 for 36. I mean, getting that in a World Cup.
Even Donald picked up 4 wickets that day.
Exactly, right. So that's what happens, right? When you lose, all these great performances unfortunately don't go. I mean, they go unnoticed, and that's really sad, right? Because I thought South Africa set up the game really well in the first innings. It was just that they needed that finishing touch. So yeah, really, really unfortunate.
You always talk very highly about Arvinder De Silva's half century in the 1996.
Absolutely.
Tell us about it.
Oh man, that is hands down. I mean, I know it will break a lot of Indian hearts, but one of the best counter-attacking knocks that I have seen in a knockout game. And trust me, and it wasn't like he was slogging or he was doing anything out of the way or extraordinary. I mean, imagine coming in at 8 for 3 and losing your 2 best openers or 2 best scorers in that World Cup who are giving you flying starts in the first over itself. And then I think it was Asanka Gurusinghe, if I'm not wrong, right? He got out once again, right? So then that's when it was 8 for 3. And he came in and batted as if there was no pressure, and he was batting on a different pitch altogether. And there was absolutely a sense of calm around his head, and the Eden Gardens crowd chanting and shouting and cheering for India. Imagine the amount of pressure and the noise that he had to play with. But the way he played some of those cover drives to our fast bowlers, and those inside out shots, those were like phenomenal, man. I mean, that in such a calm head situation, in such a pressure situation with a calm head, I thought that was amazing. And those 65 odd runs which he scored, or 68, I'm not exactly remembering the exact score, but that's something which completely turned the match around. If he hadn't played,
he scored 65 runs. He scored 65 runs. 65. And do you know how many fours he hit?
Was it about 12 or something?
14 fours.
14, yeah, correct. Exactly, right?
So out of 65 runs, 56 runs he scored in boundaries.
In boundaries, yeah. And I don't remember him going over the top or playing something which is extravagant.
Perfect cricketing shots all along the ground.
Exactly, right? And it took an Anil Kumble beauty to kind of get him out that day. The one that just went straight through and slipped through. And he got him bowled, if I'm not wrong, Anil Kumble, Arvinder De Silva. So yeah, I think that is one of my favorite knocks in semi-finals. Oops, I think we lost Mahesh. So I'll just keep going till he joins in. So that's something which really, really defined how you can handle pressure and how you can turn things around. So yeah.
So I thought that was one of the best counter-attacks I've ever seen, especially at Eden Gardens.
To follow up in the finals with that 100 as well, right?
Yeah, I think so to a very large extent, I think the 1996 World Cup was Arvinder's World Cup.
Arvinder's World Cup, yeah, exactly. And he was a top run scorer for them. He was a run machine in that era, in that period, right? So nothing could stop him.
So in that very match, Tendulkar also scored a half century. Let's talk about that. Yeah. Let's hear something about that.
That's your forte. I think you spoke about it last time. I want you to have a go at it again.
Well, I thought as long as Tendulkar and Manjrekar were batting, India were looking good. Okay, they looked like that they would reach Sri Lanka's total. The wicket was not having any demons then. Suddenly Tendulkar gets stamped out. Okay, and then the whole match turns on its head. So just either there are two things. Either the Indians just couldn't take the pressure and just capitulated, or Tendulkar's technique and skill was of that level that he was able to counter attack or score runs very easily against all
Yep.
the Sri Lankan bowlers. Well, I
Yep.
think it was a slightly underprepared wicket to the best of my knowledge. The ball was
Yep.
turning, and
Yep.
I think India were caught napping. And
Yes.
I think we played. Some of them were poor shots played by batsmen. Some crazy runouts, and then
Yes.
finally at 120, the spectators got into the game, and you know what happened. The game had to
Yeah.
be just stopped, and that's
Yeah.
how they went it. I thought
Yeah.
Tendulkar, in fact, got 2 wickets also in that innings.
Yep.
He bowled 10
Correct.
overs, he scored
Correct.
34 runs and picked up 2 wickets.
Exactly. Yep. And I think, like Shantanu says, that was such an unfortunate way to get out, right? Quick work by
Yeah, I
Kallu.
think he hit his thigh pad and he thought that the ball had
Yeah.
gone further down leg side.
Yeah. I think
And
that
yeah,
was, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if that did not happen, we would have definitely had a really good chance to win that game and close it out because,
so
he was on song in
he was
that
also.
tournament. Yep.
So it just goes to show that in that period,
Yep.
between 96 until the time Dravid and Ganguly and Lakshman
Yep.
became experienced enough to take the responsibility, the
Yep.
entire batting responsibility
Yep.
was on one man's shoulder. So that
Exactly.
is why the opponents only had to plan to get him out because the
Him
moment
out.
he
Yep.
got out, the Indians
Yep.
just felt like a pack of cards. And there are a
Exactly.
lot of people who would switch off the television as soon as he got out because they knew that, yeah, what the result would be. So yeah,
Correct.
so that was one innings. I thought that he played brilliantly, and
Absolutely. Yep.
let's talk about the 2011 semi-finals that he played against Pakistan.
Yes.
That
So
you should be
that's
talking.
as you have on the
There
screen,
it is.
the 85, and I mean, I would definitely agree with this. It was very, very scratchy. He started off so fluently, but kind of suddenly lost touch in the middle, and just lost some rhythm. And
Do you think he lost
somewhere
momentum in between?
yeah, exactly. He did. He did. I think maybe because of obviously one is wickets falling around, and second is that pitch wasn't the easiest to bat on as it
Was it two
looked like.
paced? Was the wicket
It
two
was,
paced?
it was, it was. I think the new ball was coming on nicely. But even if
Yeah,
you remember the second innings, right, the ball that Patel bowled to, I think Abdul Razak, the one that just beat his bat the outside edge and took the off stump,
yeah,
that showed that the ball was gripping even with the Munaf Patel bowling those cutters, right?
yeah.
It was kind of holding on to the surface. So I don't think that was an easy pitch to bat on, and that's why 260 was a formidable total for that kind of a wicket, because it wasn't a very high scoring game at all. So yeah, so that was a very, very crucial knock. And like Shantanu mentioned, right, just the part about hanging in there and not losing it, because if he had got out, I think we would have probably folded out under 200. And that's my opinion, because the way Wahab Riaz was bowling, he would have kind of run through the tail. That's what I feel.
Yeah. See, also it is that not all days
Yep.
do you bat like a champion. There are times even
Correct.
a champion bats,
Correct.
has a scratchy innings, like what you said
Yep.
about Tendulkar that day.
Exactly.
But it
Yep.
is the ability to overcome that
Correct.
by just staying out there. I mean, I think he was
Exactly.
dropped a few times. He got wrapped on the pads a couple of times. There were very
5 times,
close
if I'm not
calls.
wrong, in that innings.
4 or 5 times he got dropped. Yeah, and some of them
Yeah.
were pretty, sitters kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
the ability to stand in there and absorb
Yeah.
all that, the pressure would have
Correct.
been absolutely killing. I mean,
Yep.
everybody would
Hmm.
be
Yep.
just waiting to see what is going to happen. The
Yep.
crowd must be on their feet. So it's a very difficult thing to play an India-Pakistan semi-finals, and
Yes.
more so when you're playing at home,
Yep.
because the
Exactly.
expectations are much more.
Much
I
higher.
mean, though
Exactly.
the advantage of playing in home conditions is there, but the
Yep.
fact is that I think for Pakistan,
Yep.
Mohali is as much as a home ground for them
Yes.
as it is for Tendulkar, because the distance that Tendulkar travels from Mumbai to Mohali, that's the
Yeah.
distance that they would travel from Lahore to Mohali.
Mohali, exactly. Yes, Pawan, you're right. We just spoke about that a few minutes back
Yeah,
when Nishad was there. Raina's contribution, definitely. That was one of the best cameos that you could say, that completely turned the game around into India's favor. I think there's one more innings, Mahesh, which is quite recent in memory. And I think this is where, this is my opinion, that I feel that the legend of Steve Smith started coming into the picture.
yeah.
The 2015 semi-final against India,
Against India, yeah,
that 105 and that partnership with Aaron Finch, that completely took
took
the
the
game
game away.
away
Took the
from
game.
India, right? So
Absolutely.
330, if I'm not wrong, 328,
Yeah,
right? That's what,
yeah.
338 or something like that. So I mean, in a semi-final at the SCG, such a big ground, right? So I mean, chasing that was going to be a daunting task, unless
Correct.
Rohit Sharma Daddy 100 was in the making. That was the only thing that could have kind of chased down the score. But yeah, and even Virat Kohli, right? He got out to
He
Mitchell
got out
Johnson.
early.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, so that was one of the most crucial hundreds that he would have scored in a knockout game for sure. And I think that's the time when he was really coming up the ranks, right? Steve Smith, that
Yeah, yeah.
2014-15 period when he completely turned around and became the batsman that he is today. And he started with
True.
India, right? Like many great players,
Like
they
oh,
start their journey against India and become the
true.
players that they are today. So yeah, so that is something which I wanted to speak about. And of course, the recent memory, I would leave it up to
The
you. The heartbreak from Las
2019.
Vegas.
What a heartbreak it was that day, right?
Oh yeah, yep,
I mean, when you're chasing about 230, you need a
yep,
great start, and
correct,
unfortunately, India did not get a great start, which they were so used to getting right through the tournament. I mean,
correct,
look at Rohit Sharma; he had a dream run. Okay, Rahul was playing very well.
yep,
Virat, though he didn't get the big centuries, he was still
yes,
getting 60s and 70s. So
yes,
India depended a
mm,
lot on the engine room to fire that day, and that
correct,
semi-finals was probably the most important semi-final. And we had restricted them to a reasonably okay score. It was not a daunting score. So
yes,
all that we needed probably was in 10 overs. If we had scored about 50 runs, we had
yes,
the game pretty well covered.
yeah. I think
Unfortunately, we
lost,
lost
yeah, too many
the
wickets.
top three.
Yeah,
Too
correct.
many wickets. At
Yeah,
the end of the 10th over, we were 24 for 4, and
yeah,
Matt Henry had taken 3 wickets for
yeah,
13 runs. And I
yes,
thought that was a dream spell by him. We never
yes,
recovered from there. We were
yes,
always behind the 8 ball, right? I mean, we had a decent partnership with Dhoni
yeah,
and Jadeja, but the asking rate kept going up
correct.
every over. Okay,
Yep.
and it was not the Dhoni of the old that we
Mm,
knew that he would. But
yeah,
still, his reputation was there, and a lot of Indian fans were praying very hard that he pulls out that one of those magical innings. But I think he struggled at the end, didn't he? I mean,
yeah,
though I would hate to use the word struggle with Dhoni, I think
yeah,
he struggled. And the way he got run out, and
yeah,
I think Jadeja played a brilliant innings. He scored a 70 odd, and he looked to be
yeah.
taking the game away.
So I
Yeah,
think
yeah, tell me.
that's actually my second most favorite semi-final knock. In a high pressure situation. Unfortunately, in a losing cause, but that knock by Jadeja, I really, really rated really high. I mean, phenomenal, man. The way he attacked as well as stayed on the wicket. It was a really difficult thing to do because when you have to just attack, that you have to attack. But there, he had to also ensure that he doesn't get out because if he
Correct.
got out, it was curtains for India much earlier, right?
Yeah.
So that was again another knock. That too chasing was something which was phenomenal. And honestly, I didn't expect him to play such a knock, because the Jadeja that we relate to is the guy who comes and bangs a few boundaries and gets a few important runs in the end of the innings. But the way he stayed at the wicket and that partnership with Dhoni, it still kept us in the hunt, right? That was amazing. And I think,
Okay, let me ask you a question, Venu.
yeah,
Do you think Dhoni should have walked in at number 4?
good question. And I think slightly off topic, we have another question. And this is something which Shantanu is asking. And that's your answer, Mahesh, if I'm not wrong. Probably we needed a
Okay,
submission
Shantanu, I
towards
have
that.
written an article very
Yes,
recently about how
yes,
much we miss Rahane at number 4. I'll
yes,
send you the link, you can read it. Yes, I was
yes.
a big fan of Ajinkya Rahane being
Yeah.
selected for the
Mm,
World Cup. When the selection thing came out, I said, we
mm,
are going to miss Rahane.
correct.
So the question was between Rahane. I think Azharuddin went on record saying that Pujara should be taken. So
No.
basically, what it meant is that we
Yeah.
needed somebody at
Just
number 4,
in the middle
just
order.
in
Yeah.
case the engine
Exactly.
room fails to hold the
Yes.
innings together. And I
Yep.
think yeah, when we lost 2 wickets,
Yep.
okay, 1 or 2 wickets, I think at number 4, we needed an experienced hand like Mahendra Singh Dhoni to
Exactly.
walk up because
Exactly.
what it
Yep.
would have done is it would have given him enough time to play his game of today. His
Mm,
game is no longer the game of the past where it takes about 10 balls to settle and then start tonking all over the ground. He needs a longer time to get settled in. He likes to take his singles and twos.
correct.
Maybe if he would have walked in at number 4, he would have had the
Yeah.
overs to
Would have
play
calmed the
and then
nerves
could have
and
put.
yeah. Exactly.
Correct. And
Yeah.
could have pushed somebody like Rishabh Pant and
Yes.
Dinesh Karthik a little behind so that even if the asking rate had gone up,
Yes.
they would have been able to take care of it. But at
Absolutely.
that point of time, if he was sent and he would have scored that, whatever, 50, 60 runs, I think
Mm.
India could have.
Correct.
manage to score
Yeah.
that the needed
Yeah.
runs.
See, a lot of fans say that Rahane is not a typical one-day player. See, I agree on that aspect, but when you're going to England, right, you need a person who can weather the storm, right, and a guy who can just
Technically, more correct.
technically more correct, as well as play straight with a straighter bat, and just kind of hang in there, and that's the quality
Correct.
which really sets him apart. And I feel, yeah, that kind of temperament was needed in that kind of a big game, right? So, and
True.
there's one more point, Mahesh, that that game kind of signifies how New Zealand play their cricket, right? They don't want any
Absolutely. Very well
superstars in
pointed.
their team. They just have the resources to make a difference in those conditions, right? And it's not about having the best players in the world all the time. It's all about how do you utilize those players that you have, right? A Matt Henry, have you heard his name ever since? I don't think
No.
so, right? But in that game, he just stepped up his game. And Kane Williamson, his captaincy, he knew how to utilize those fast bowlers. He knew whom to bowl when. He knew what fields to set, for them, right? So that's so important, right? How do you utilize those resources? Not about always having the best resources, right? So that's how New Zealand play their cricket. Not having too many superstars, but having the team that binds together and sticks together and do their part. Those small bits.
If
That's
you
how they play.
also see, Venu, they've never had great players. I mean, big names, but
Correct.
they have been very consistent in the
Yeah.
World Cup.
Yes. Absolutely agree. Yes, Rajat, I agree. He should have been India's number four.
So I
Yes,
have opened the
absolutely.
Pandorama box. It looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, yes, Rajat, you also spoke about Grant Elliott. Yeah, we spoke about him briefly in the last episode,
Yes.
and in the mom, yes, we also spoke about him a few minutes
Nishad
back.
just spoke about it.
Nisha
Yeah.
just spoke about it. Yes, so yeah, I think Grant Elliott's knock
Those
was
are
phenomenal, no doubt about it. Yeah. So again, that also signifies, right? The guy played just one crucial innings, and that was the innings that was needed, right? Just like Matt
correct.
Henry, that spell, and this innings, that's all you need in big games. One man to step up, or the team to kind of bind together and play together, right?
See,
So
New Zealand have
amazing.
always been like that.
Yes,
They they, they,
exactly.
they, they, they just lift their game when
Punch
they
above their
require it
weight,
to be
right?
lifted.
Exactly. Yes, and I mean they were deservingly in the finals in the last two World Cups because of the way they play that cricket. And
Correct.
I think, yeah, they were absolutely having the best team to kind of make it through the finals. I was really sad that the way it folded out in the finals, but yeah, that's something which you don't have in your control. But yeah, I think they really
Yeah,
did.
because the rules were laid out much before the World Cup
Yeah.
started. Maybe we could have
Yes.
challenged the rules before the World Cup, but once it was
Yeah.
declared and
Yeah.
all the participating teams had agreed to it,
Correct.
then I
Correct.
think then it's a fair
I
match.
think, I think 2015 was kind of a damn squib, if I could say so. I was expecting more from New Zealand there, but yeah,
Yeah,
Australia
because
formidable.
Brendan McCullum got out very early.
Exactly, right. The law of averages probably caught up with them. That's something
I
which
think
you.
that same thing happened with Rohit Sharma.
Yes, exactly. Good point, Shantanu. Williamson Taylor partnership is very underrated. They figured out that the pitch was 230-40. Yes, absolutely right. And that's what, right? So they knew what resources they had in their bowling lineup and what they could defend, right? So sometimes all the big teams make these mistakes, right? That they aim for something which is too high and kind of end up something which is very, very low, right? So you need to have that measured approach, and that's what Williamson
True.
brings to the table, right? So as a captain, as the thinker of the game, so he's never over the top, right? He's always measured in his approach, and the way he
Even
took
the
that
way
catch,
even he
remember?
conducts himself.
Yeah, you remember that catch, Mahesh, the one which he took for of Jadeja. How calm
Yeah.
he was, right? I mean, amazing man. So
There is not too much of celebration, expression.
exactly,
Even when he lost the finals, the
yes,
dignity that
the
he
way he carried
showed
himself,
was
yes,
outstanding.
absolutely, yeah, awesome. Cool. I think now we are heading towards our semifinals at Cricket.
This is going to be
Yes.
fantastic, guys.
Yep.
Don't miss it for anything. Let me tell you that
Yes.
it's
Yes.
going to be
And
one hell of a
participants. Yeah.
semi-finals.
I think the participants should, do their yoga and meditation and just do some breathing exercises today because Nishad has already promised on the show that there's a lot of googlies, yorkers, and a lot of interesting deliveries in store. So yeah,
Typical Nishad spell. It is going to be six
exactly,
overs of Nishad is going to be a combination of everything.
absolutely, absolutely, yep. So yeah, so we will see you guys on the other side of the break, and yep, we'll
Superb,
be back in 10 minutes. Thank you
fantastic.
guys. Thanks for all your questions, audience. Thank you, Mahesh. So see you
Thank
soon.
you, Venu. Yep.
Yeah,
Bye
bye bye.
bye.